What's good, you guys? Now, on Beer Biceps, I always promote vegetarian proteins, especially when you combine them with complete animal proteins like egg. So, in today's recipe, I'm combining egg with lentils, legumes, or dals as we call them in India. Now, dieting isn't just about putting on muscle, it's also about health. Now, dals are packed with nutrition, and that's why they should be a part of every human being's diet. This is my high protein dal omelette. Now let's start this recipe by talking about an optional ingredient, chana dal or Bengal gram, whole Bengal gram. Super high in protein, kind of high in carbs, and completely optional. It's optional because to cook this you need to use a cooker. And before you use the cooker, you gotta make sure that it's soaked in water overnight. So one cooker with a lot of water just to make sure all the dal's immersed. Put in about a teaspoon of salt for say about 100 grams of chana dal on a cooker for 30 minutes on a medium flame, and your chana dal is ready to go. Now coming to the not so optional ingredients, starting with matki or moth bean, another super nutritious high protein dal, and then green gram or moong dal, which again, as with any dal, super high in minerals and protein. Now, to be honest, there are a couple of downsides to using dals. The first of which is that they're high in carbs, and the second of which is that you need to soak them in water for about 8 to 12 hours before cooking them. So the cooking process starts with immersing the dals in water, adding just a little bit of salt, but primarily just immersing them in water. So you can cook these dals in an open vessel for again about half an hour. Remember, these cook faster than the Bengal gram, but for the Bengal gram, you need a cooker to just hasten up the whole process. So half an hour on a medium flame, and that's when we can move on to the king of this dish, of course, the main protein, the animal protein, the complete protein, eggs. Now, besides being delicious, the yolks are also super nutritious. I've made an entire video on why everyone should be consuming egg yolks, so make sure you watch it. So break open 4 eggs, and we're gonna go in with the Indian masalas into the egg wash directly. The proportions are in the description box, but keep in mind it's according to your own taste. So red chili powder, garam masala, and turmeric, just a bit of each of course. And it goes without saying or showing in the video, don't forget the salt. Whisk it up. You want to create bubbles, because remember, when you're making an omelette, the more bubbles there are, the fluffier the omelette is. And the fluffier the omelette is, the more action you'll get that night. But hold on Beer Biceps we talk a lot about eggs. What we don't talk about enough are dals and all that nutrition, protein and clean carbohydrate that it's giving you. So after about half an hour of cooking on a medium flame, all 3 dals are ready to be eaten. Now, boiled dal can be enjoyed itself in all its healthy but boring glory. But for this particular recipe, let's just amp up that taste factor. So get your hands on that non-stick, put all your dal in there, and then go in with a teaspoon of ghee. This step's optional, but it helps you get a crispy coating on the outside. And now, it's time for something super cool. So towards the end of the process, after your dals are done crisping, make kind of like a furrow like this in the middle, go in with cumin, and then you can go in with a teaspoon of ghee. So here's what's happening. If you fry off cumin too much, it tends to become bitter. So only after the dals have crisped up, we'll start this. So eventually the ghee is gonna melt because of the heat from the pan, and that ghee is gonna absorb all that cuminy flavor. So once you've sauteed it for about 2 minutes, this is optional again, you can go in with just a little bit of garlic and some curry leaves, because you know you're watching a Beer Biceps video and we dig those curry leaves. So after sauteing that curry leaf goodness for about 2 or 3 minutes, you can go in with that masaledar egg wash. Now, to be honest, there's a zillion ways to make great omelettes. This way is mine. So I start by kind of evening out the egg wash. I make a circle and then I go on to break the outsides of the circle. So now what happens is, because you're using 4 or 5 eggs and it's so runny, the runniness kind of covers the gaps, and then that becomes the base of the omelette. Now, if you're weird like me and you have an affinity for wrapping up omelettes, go ahead, copy me. But you can also let it just cook out, on a flat pan, that works. I personally like my omelettes all nice and pocketed. So then you proceed to cover it with a lid let it steam for a bit, say about a minute or two. Remember, you don't want to overcook it. And after a minute or two, your stuffed high protein dal omelette is ready. Super high in protein, kind of high in clean carbs, but mainly high in oh yeah.